Your Honor, Leland Palmer is a well-known, well-liked, well-respected member of this community. His roots go way back. His grandfather, Joshua Palmer, brought the family here more than 75 years ago. Your Honor, no one can know what it's like to lose a daughter the way Leland did. That's all.
Chats, a television podcast, season 12, PeaksChatz. My name is Magellan, and they grew up in Boston. Well, actually, they grew up in books. It's Alan.
7 years ago, a man was born between two cities. I'm just trying to quote the beginning of different books here, guys. It's kind of my bit. I'm a real good shut-in.
It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times.
You stupid monkey.
That's my favorite Simpsons joke out there, everybody, just so you know.
Even better than steamed hams?
Steamed hams is a piece. You know, that's a that's like a different kind of art. It's not just a joke. Hey Alan, how's it? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Superintendent Alan, welcome.
No, it isn't.
It is so sorry, I want to tell you how I am. I didn't really tell you how I am.
Okay.
It's so hot. I was just reading that in Sicily, they reported a temperature of 118.5 degrees Fahrenheit recently.
Oh, boy.
If confirmed by the meteorological board, that will be the hottest temperature recorded in the continent of Europe
for the next 3 months. Oh, wow.
I mean, so far. So, yeah. I mean, it's an island.
You see those things on social media that are like, hey, this is the best climate you're going to live in for the rest of your life. Right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's fun.
We're all melting. It's okay. We still have time to do a podcast, though, and that's good.
Yeah, we might as well, escape into the heaven that is Twin Peaks and watch it 2 episodes a week, which is what we tend to do. This time around, we watched season 2, episodes 4 and 5. First, we're going to be discussing season 2, episode 4, Laura's Secret Diary. It was directed by Todd Holland and written by Jerry Stahl, Mark Frost, Harley Payton, and Robert Engels. It aired on October 20th, 1990. Alan, what happened in Laura's Secret Diary?
Well, John, I'm glad you asked. In this episode, Leland confesses to killing Jacques Renault, and he wants to take a new sperm count test. Rumor spreads that a food critic is coming to Twin Peaks. Jean asks Ben to set a trap for Cooper in exchange for Audrey's life. Magellan, there are 2 new directors on the scene this week, and also a lot of writers on this episode.
And both these directors were really good, by the way.
Yeah.
Shout out to Todd Holland especially. Mm-hmm. I took note. This episode, I don't know that it was like a standout episode in that many ways, but there was a little bit extra craft to the cinematography and to some of the lines that I really appreciated. Like, it starts with that shot, that really mysterious shot where you're coming out of what looks like a hole, and then you think you're coming out of like a coconut or something, and then you keep coming out of it, and it turns out it's the wall in front of Leland as he's thinking about the fact that he killed Jacques Renault. And I don't know, just the tension of that and the kind of unsettling unreality was an incredible shot. So
trypophobia, by the way, is
Todd Holland.
A fear or disgust of closely packed holes. This opening triggered my trypophobia.
Yeah.
If you have that, if that happens to be something that affects you, skip like a minute into this episode because it is rough.
Is that Does that really bother you? Closely packed holes?
Not to the point where I would say that it's one of like my phobias, but it definitely like I feel a under my skin discomfort with like a bunch of holes. It's probably from reading so much Junji Ito back in the day, as in like 2 years ago. But yeah, it's the funny thing is I looked up both of these directors, and you'll never guess which one worked on sitcoms and which one worked on like editing and horror films.
Yeah, Todd Holland's direction does have it. Yeah, it definitely adds to the horror of.
You are incorrect. Todd Holland directed a bunch of episodes of Malcolm in the Middle, and he directed The Wizard, the 1989 film The Wizard.
Hey, the cinematography on Malcolm in the Middle is awesome.
It is. That's so true. Yeah, he directed like 20-something episodes of it. He also did The Larry Sanders Show and The Real O'Neills, which is a sitcom I've never heard of.
Wow, okay. Nice work.
And The Wizard, so weirdly specific. They got the director of The Wizard for Twin Peaks. But then, yeah, Graham Clifford, the guy who did the second episode, was mostly an editor. He edited the Rocky Horror Picture Show film and a couple of like thrillers and horror films from the 80s. But yeah, again, agreed. Really great direction on both of these eps.
Yeah.
I really liked Laura's Secret Diary. I think I've said it before, but we're in the point of Twin Peaks now where we're just firing on a lot of my favorite cylinders. We've got some good creepy family murder mystery stuff. We've got some action. We've got some comedy.
Can I just throw one thing out there real quick?
Yes.
I was just looking into Todd Holland's directorial credits on Malcolm in the Middle, and he did direct the bowling episode, so you gotta give it up for that.
Why do I have a feeling like that's an episode where they put a camera on the bowling ball? Do they do that?
Yes, they definitely do. It's also like one of the best episodes of that show.
Really? Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Do you know the premise of that one?
No.
That's the one where Malcolm and Reese are going to like some friend from school's bowling birthday party, and the episode shows you how the night would go differently depending on which parent takes them to that party. So it's the two diverging realities where Lois takes them and where Hal takes them.
Cool.
It's a really good episode, and it inspired Remedial Chaos Theory.
From Community.
From Community, yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, good job, Todd Holland. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks, Todd. No, I was just getting at how I think that this episode really incorporates all my favorite elements of Twin Peaks. Like, we're in like a golden age right now, and I'm really trying to savor it. Like, I sat down and really appreciated this episode this week. A lot of great direction, a lot of great moments, kind of creepy. It's everything you come to the show for, and more.
Mm-hmm.
Where do we want to start with this beefy friend here?
Well, should we just start by getting out of the way the stuff that we don't really want to talk about that much?
Sure.
There's one specific plot that I don't have a lot to say about, and that is everything having to do with. It's weird that it's like given a place of priority in the episode summary that we just read. The bit about the food critic coming to town. There's this whole scene where we meet someone who I guess is like a receptionist at the Great Northern, who's a great actor, and she's walking down the hallway with Ben Warren and giving this performance 150% of the energy asked of her to be like, oh, the new food critic's coming to town. And then it just becomes a plot where Norma and Hank are wondering if the food critic is going to come to the Double R, and they're kind of trying to prepare for that. And they think someone else is the food critic, but actually it's this district attorney, and Hank steals his ID, and that's it.
That's empty wins.
Yeah, maybe something more is going to happen there, but it was just a chance to show us that Hank is manipulating Norma, and otherwise it's kind of a boring plot.
I guess all I have is, if people who have not watched Twin Peaks before, and you're watching along with us, I'd love to hear your guesses on who you think Empty Wentz, or what's going to be Empty Wentz's deal. Whether or not it's somebody we already know and that's like in disguise, or if it's like a brand new character. What's your guess so far? Because this is a pretty common trope in these shows, is like the mystery person what's his name? Where is he coming from? Or is it even a he? And it's like, okay, like this.
Yeah.
In theory, it's very predictable, but in execution, I can't really say due to spoilers.
Right.
But yeah, Empty Wentz, Hank realizes that that guy that comes in who's like, can I get just a burger? And also I need to use the toilet room. Is this also the scene where they have a guy named like Slug or something that comes to the restaurant? And they're like, Slug, go eat in the kitchen. And Norma's like, get out of the kitchen, Slug.
Yeah.
Very funny. I love that part.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say here, though.
No, nothing else. So that's that. And then there's, I think a lot of the stuff with Donna we'll talk about mostly in the next episode. Because this episode really feels like it's set up for what happens in the Orchid's curse. But essentially Donna is spending more and more time with Harold at his house, and we get the groundwork laid for some important concepts about their relationship, namely that Harold is assembling what he calls a sort of living novel, which is essentially people will go to him and tell them his life story, and he records it in a diary or a journal. Kind of cool, right? Good idea.
Yeah, very cool.
For a podcast, maybe. I don't know. Something. That's cool content.
That's not us teasing anything specific, by the way. Literally, just this is a cool idea.
No, it's not. And then, Donna eventually decides she wants to trade her life story for a chance to read Laura's secret diary because Harold's being very protective of it. He briefly reads her a little bit from it, but it's about Donna, and then it becomes kind of sexual, and he's like, oops, sorry, I just opened to a random page. Sorry about that. I don't know.
It's weird. It's
good.
Well, okay, so there's sexual undertones here. Not even undertones, overtones.
I wouldn't call it undertones.
No, right.
It's like literally a part where Laura's like, I want men to control me sexually.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, let me close that. Sorry about that.
Harold's not necessarily a good person. I think it immediately puts me against him that he shares this with Donna, but he knows that she's Laura's best friend, and he feels comfortable with reading this diary. Like, I was thinking at first, like, why does he read the diary? But Laura literally entrusted it to him. She said, you can have it. Her thinking is presumably, you're not going anywhere. You're never going to give this to anyone. You don't have any connections to anybody. I can give this to you and feel safe about that. It's Donna who does the investigation and kind of is pushing him to read it and to eventually just give it to her. But he can't leave the house. So then she takes advantage of him. There's a lot of, like, gender roles power plays going on here that I find really fascinating. I also just didn't think about how interesting Harold was. And this brings me to a bigger point about like the different age at which we watch certain television shows really affects how we appreciate certain parts of them. Sure. You know, it's classically we talk about as we get older, we like the parents on sitcoms more. And we like the kids when we are kids because we can relate to them. But like, maybe it's COVID. Maybe it's being cooped up in my house for so long and like going to work and coming home or whatever. But there was a moment where even though he's like reading this private diary, I still empathize with Harold when Donna is like being horrible with him and like trying to like do all this sneaky stuff. And this is a guy who was given this overbearing like burden and just wants to be with his orchids and like appreciate the life inside of his home. And people are like trying to get into
being Laura's diary, you're saying, or the burden being his agoraphobia?
The burden being Laura's diary, the burden that's being placed upon him. The agoraphobia, I don't really, maybe there's something to be said about like Twin Peaks continuously reminding us that like some people are quote unquote weird and that makes them different and stuff like that. But at the very least, it's like okay that Harold is not portrayed as a physically like ugly character, so to speak. He's just a person with a mental health issue, and he's working through it, and he also has the secret.
Yeah, I think the show is mostly empathetic towards that until maybe like the end of the next episode, which we can talk about, where it kind of, I don't know, twists it in a weird way. But yeah, just to talk about what you're saying about, you know, it makes sense that Laura would give him this diary, and it kind of seems like an act of, there's something about control there, right? Where Laura, I think, knows the obsession that he'll sort of place upon it when she gives it to him. And also knows that he'll sort of like control her legacy or this set of memories on her behalf. And what's going on there too? Like she's kind of has power over him by giving him this, and also is making sure that he has power over her. It's complicated. And then it also makes you think about, what is he getting from this diary? Because part of it is sexual or erotic in some way. And part of it is, it's just a part of this larger project of his living vicariously through people, because he like is not leaving his house. So I found his character pretty compelling. And it sounded like you were talking about our kind of empathy towards him, not just being a function of age, but like a function of living
the period of time we're in.
Right. Living in a pandemic. And I definitely feel that, you know, we have sort of more of an understanding of what it's like to be a character who's bound to their home, and how that's a complicated circumstance to be in.
Harold can't experience certain pleasures of life, and so, like you said, he experiences them vicariously. And we all have retreated to our books and our Netflix shows and our video games and all this stuff because we want to be able to feel things outside of the boundaries of our home. Mm-hmm. And so that's how he copes with his agoraphobia, as he reads Laura's diary. Laura, a person who was very social and very sexually active, and he, you know, it's like he has the language for it. The way he talks about his orchids with Donna is very reminiscent of somebody like, you know, engaging in sexual concourse, but like he just can't do it with flowers. Sorry to be crass. So instead it's like, well, I read this diary and I get to hear about her doing all these horrible, gross things, and I feel, you know, excited and engaged by that. You can relate to a lot of things. You can relate to the way that we use media to help us empathize with other people. You can use it to talk about like a pornography addiction, or this idea of like, I am what is it called? Like a voyeur of sorts. Like, I have this private thing and I like that I have it, and that nobody else has it. That's why he doesn't want Donna to take it, is because he likes that it belongs to him. Right. Not only that, like, Laura entrusted it to him, but also like, nobody else can have this. You can't give this out and take it outside.
I think the last thing that I'll say about it is that he has this turn of phrase where Donna proposes that they toast to Laura, and this is how he phrases his toast. Sorry, give me 1 second.
To Laura, in our hearts and memories locked.
Just I don't know, the choice of words there, that it's not like Laura's in our hearts and memories. It's not, we're going to remember her and love her. She's locked. And that's like a thing to toast to. I thought that was a really well crafted line.
Yeah, that performance is really great. I think that actor brings a lot to it also. It's a tough role to play. You could so easily play it as like a funny joke thing. But I think, as you were saying, like the tonal shift in season 2 is that you get a character like Harold and he's not a joke. It's just like, he's deeply sad and we just accept that. Lenny Van Dolen is the actor's name. Still has those beautiful glistening blue eyes to this day. Glistening? That's a word I could use, I guess.
Glad those weren't removed or something.
Well, no, I mean, like, you know, people's eye color like fades over time and whatever. Especially blue eyes. But anyways, what's another good one?
Well, the only other thing that's going on with Donna in this episode is that she's mad at Maddie. I don't think we see James in this one, but Donna and Maddie meet up, and the whole tone of the conversation is basically along these lines.
If Laura did have a secret diary and Harold's got it, I'm gonna get it with or without you. Tell that to James.
She's just mad. That's what Donna's feeling. She's angry.
Anger.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really find Donna being bitter like this that compelling. I guess it makes sense, but it's much more interesting to watch her interact with Harold than with Maddie, I think.
He brings a lot of good stuff out of her, I think. He brings a good character out of her. Can we talk briefly about Josie?
Yeah, sure. Josie's back on the thread of plots that don't have a lot of meat on their bones. What do you want to say about that?
Josie introduces, is it Truman? To her, no, he introduces Pete Martell, to her family member, Jonathan, who is the Asian man that we've been seeing with Cooper, or watching Cooper this whole time in season 2. Not much to say there other than I was just disappointed that we actually got 2 Asian characters in the episode talking to each other, and they're both like, yeah, we're going to speak English. This is a show on network television. We're not going to like challenge the viewer a little bit, because they're from Hong Kong. Like they're allowed to speak Chinese. It's allowed. I was bummed by that, but I get it. Maybe they think they're being listened to, but like if you're going to be secretive, then speak in your native language. I don't know. So that was weird. They have some sneaky stuff going on. I really just think that they're building up Josie to be this like manipulative person, and there's a scene in the second episode that I think does that much better than this. Is the scene with her and Truman in the second episode?
No, I think that's in this one. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, basically, right, because it's right before the judge comes in.
Stuff, yeah.
Which we can transition to, but basically she has Truman in and he's asking her like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? She's like, oh, I was in Chicago, like I said. He's like, it's that Catherine's probably dead. And then she's like, you think I did it? And to basically get him to shut up, she just like turns on the sex appeal, and we get an extended
tries his
sequence.
best. He really tries to be like, no, I think you did a murder for insurance money. And she says, okay, but you can rip my dress. And he says, well, brain off, time to
no thoughts have empty.
Now.
She said it's the most expensive dress at the department store. So for her to be like, now rip it, is like, oh, sick. If you're Truman, I guess.
I'll worry about your crimes later.
Yeah, I'm gonna commit some crime. Never mind. It's just horny Truman for anybody except Cooper. Not a big fan of it.
Fictional. Yeah.
Fictional.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do that, and then we get to probably also, I just want to briefly talk about not Norman, Hank. Is Nadine stuff in this episode or the second one?
Next one.
Okay, not that. Let's talk about the judge. Let's talk about Judge Baby.
Yeah,
we've got our new favorite character.
Probably before we get to the judge, we should just set up why the judge is here. Which is the episode starts with Cooper and Truman questioning Leland, as we talked about with that amazing opening shot, and getting him to confess to the murder of Jacques Renault. And there's this absolutely incredibly performed moment on the part of Ray Wise, where he's talking about what he was feeling, when he went to kill Jacques Renault. And he says this:
have you ever experienced absolute loss? I doubt if any one of us is a stranger to grief. No, more than grief. It's deep down, inside. Every cell screams. You can hear nothing else. Yes. I killed him.
So that's where Leland's at right now.
Me and my therapist.
I killed him.
She's like, I asked you how your day was.
And then they need the judge to come to town to hold a hearing, like a bail hearing or something, I guess is what it is, which is what happens in the next episode. And so we get this wonderful old judge named Judge Clinton Sternwood.
Amazing name.
His name was judge name ever. This is the second episode. This is the second time in Chat's history where an episode has heavily involved the logistics of like when a judge is free to hang out. The first time being in Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, of course.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, yes, this judge guy shows up. How are you feeling about the judge?
They're so good at writing old men. I love these old men. I love the way that they can just come in and be like, I understand the dynamics here immediately. And you're like, whoa, you are so interesting and cool. And you it's you kind of have to get out of the realm of reality and thinking about what a judge would actually do in a case like this. Because, I mean, from a professional standpoint, this is just wild. Like, the way he's like, yeah, we're gonna, hold court at a bar and like drink in the middle of the court hearing, and I'm gonna talk about like grief and whatnot to the convicted person. Like, he's just not a professional judge, but he's an entertaining and engaging judge in that way that Twin Peaks can kind of like fire at certain cylinders in your brain.
Yeah.
Like the ear for interesting dialogue and for like symbolism and all that stuff. He's doing all of that.
Yeah, there's this moment where Leland comes into the room they're supposed to have this conversation about, I guess it's setting his bail or something, but they can't do it because the district attorney is late. He's out having food at the Double R, I guess. Yeah. And the judge, before they start, says this to Leland.
Before we assume our respective roles in this enduring drama, just let me say that when these frail shadows we inhabit now have quit the stage, we'll meet and raise a glass again together in Valhalla. Would that it were so.
Ugh. The thunder.
Yeah. The cinematography really sells it there in a moment that you could otherwise be like, what are you doing, man? You are full of yourself. But it comes across as surprisingly genuine. And I think that actor does a lot to make it feel that way.
Yeah. And it's cool too to like seeing him play off of Ray Wise occasionally, like at the beginning. Because Leland is like ready to, he readily confesses to the murder of Jacques, but it just still feels like there's like so much burden in this guy's heart. And Judge Sternwood like pulls at that and is like, well, we have to think about life from a broader scale. He's like thinking about it on a higher plane of existence than just like, you're going to go to jail for the rest of your life. He's like, well, but at least when you're dead, we will meet each other again and all that. And there's beauty to that.
Yeah.
I think Twin Peaks in general has a fascinating relationship to grief and how people grieve, and has continued to like underscore certain points about like, yeah, it doesn't all end when you die. It doesn't just like leave your spirit forever. I think it's a very spiritual show in that way. I love Judge Sternwood. Yeah,
and I think there's a conversation to be had here about Sternwood's particular philosophy on justice and the place that empathy has in that. And what's good about that, but also what's flawed about how he carries it out, which we can talk a lot more about when we actually see him preside over some hearings in the next episode. The only other Judge Sternwood thing I wanted to bring up was this great exchange that he has with Cooper, where he says, Cooper, how do you like Twin Peaks? And Cooper's like, it's like heaven. And Sternwood says,
well, this week heaven includes arson, multiple homicides, and an attempt on the life of a federal agent.
Heaven is a large and interesting place, sir.
That's just good.
It's kind of a metaphor for the show. It's a metaphor for the show. It's like you could control F that and find it in 18 instances in Chat's television podcast. But like, heaven is what does he say? What's the line exactly? Heaven is a big and wonderful place or something. Yeah. Like, it's just, yeah, there's evil here, but there's also good there. Both of those things can exist simultaneously. And there's a beauty to that. That doesn't make it not heaven, at least in Cooper's like sort of Buddhist view.
Right. Yeah, it seems to be a response to the theme that we've been seeing develop around Cooper's kind of the way that he idealizes Twin Peaks and as a town, and this kind of like the real America vibes of it, and how he's starting to figure out how to square that with the horrible things he's seen, which is just to say like, yeah, true. The bad does not undermine the good. And I don't know, that's a particular position on that theme. I don't know if I agree with Cooper, but I think it's seeing Cooper try to reconcile those things is important to developing that theme over the course of the show.
Two major themes that I started thinking about in this episode One of which I have to talk about in the spoiler segment, but one of them being this Cooper stuff. And like I was re-listening to some Angels in Chats America, which for folks who don't know was a season we did a couple months ago where we watched the HBO miniseries Angels in America. And it started making me think about like how different television shows make a metaphor out of like our perception of America and what's good and bad about it. And I sort of think that you can read Cooper's description of Twin Peaks as a lamentation for the America of old, of like, yeah, there's awful and of the present, honestly. Like we can't even take this into 2021 and say, yeah, there's injustice and horrible people and murder and just like systemic failures. But there's also beauty and companionship and community and love woven together. And so, like, I think that the way that Cooper talks about Twin Peaks in regards to Sternwood's comments is also like, yeah, you could have a person from Europe come to America and be like, you guys know your healthcare is busted and you elected a stupid president and then you didn't handle this virus well. And you're like, yeah, I still live here and spend every day here. And there are things about it that I really like. Like, you get both of these things are allowed to be true. Right. Americana comes up a lot, both in Twin Peaks and in like Lynch's work in general, I feel like. So just something I've been thinking about a lot. Oh, man. Yeah. Oh, so last Judd Sternwood thing. Both of us read about her in our notes. Everybody's favorite new Twin Peaks character. It's Sid, everyone. You all love Sid. This is the Welcome to the Sid Show, starring Sid.
Could this quite possibly be the worst use of a character in all of Twin Peaks? Is that possible?
It's possible. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, she's in we've seen the entirety of Sid's performances.
She shows up in this episode. She walks into the scene after everything of substance has happened to be like, all right, Judge, I brought the car around or whatever. And Truman and Cooper go, cartoon wolf eyes and dangling tongue. Oh my God, she's so hot. What, are they married or whatever? She's Sternwood's clerk, I guess. And then that's her appearance in this episode. And then in the next episode, in the courtroom that is at the bar, she's like, boys, can I fix you some drinks at the bar? That's the last time we see her.
That's it. She's played by Claire Stanfield, born in the United Kingdom, best known for her recurring role as Alti in Xena Warrior Princess.
She was also in an episode of The X-Files, season 1.
Oh, snap.
She looks like my thoughts on that episode over on our Patreon.
There's the plug. Patreon.com/chatspot. I was reading about Alti and reading about Xena and being going like, should I watch Xena? But I say that about literally every fantasy show I ever think about.
Yeah. Any show that aired in between the years 1990 and 2005. Should I watch this?
No, my two notes were that she looks like the singer Dua Lipa, also from the UK, and B, she retired from acting in 2001. So she was like, I did Twin Peaks and I did Xena. I'm done. The 2000s are over. And it's 01. I'm out.
Yeah.
Good for her, I guess.
Yeah.
Can we talk about some other sad young women?
Sure. I would love to. I don't know if I would love to, but yes, let's do it.
It's time to talk about Audrey, everybody. Audrey Horne is having a bad time. Her dad is having a bad time. Everything about this is a bad time.
I think this is easily my least favorite thing about season 2, right?
But is it bad? I mean, it's super uncomfortable, but is it bad?
It's definitely a lot. It's definitely very serious, right?
Yeah. It's honestly a little bit too serious.
And unsettling. And yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of weird to say that about the show where that includes the inciting incident of Laura Palmer's murder, which is itself so grisly. But like, you never see these traumatic moments in Laura's life. Mm-hmm. You just kind of come to understand them. But the show is also like enacting some of that trauma through the other female characters who are like trying to follow her path or emulate her life. And I don't know. I don't know. Just all this stuff with Audrey being brought. What's the department store guy's name who gets killed?
Emery Battis.
Emery. The stuff that he's saying to her, leading her in the room. And then she tells Jean Reno that Emery hit her. And then Jean Reno murders Emery right in front of her,
Clapped.
and then like fully embraces her to construct this fucked up Stockholm syndrome thing. It's awful. It's really, really. This is an incredibly traumatic experience for Audrey, and I don't know how to feel about it because it's making me uncomfortable, and I guess it should. I guess that's the point. I don't know. What do you think about it?
So a lot of Twin Peaks, even when it shows violence against women, either cuts away from it, which is clever and is an effective way to get something like this on network television, or in the case of like Donna, lets them have their retribution. You know, people that do bad by them and they are treated poorly, and they get to be powerful. They get to do things that affect the plot.
Yeah, or Shelley, right? Shooting Leo. Well, that didn't really affect the plot.
Yeah, that one, little iffy.
Almost did.
But Audrey was good. Audrey was like interesting and wants to solve the murder on her own, and very plucky and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And now she's just being relegated to like getting, and I hate to say it like this, but getting kind of like hit around, like smacked around in a way. She's being like pumped full of drugs to get her addicted. She's a teenager, which it's like, so here's what I'll say. This is my sort of big concluding point about this. We are now in a point in Twin Peaks where we should be seeing this stuff because it's going to get a lot more explicit eventually. Like actually more explicit and uncomfortable than the Audrey stuff. So it's useful for them to give us this drip feed of like, hey, really want you to know it's not just the stuff that Laura writes in her secret diary, but also like it's just happening in the present and not just to her. True. She's not the one victim of systemic violence and like awful men. But like, I don't know, dog. I am watching a murder mystery television show, and now I'm watching a teenager be like forced to have Stockholm syndrome for a murderous French Canadian man. Yeah. Like, it just feels like it's a much darker. It would feel in place in like a HBO 2010s like period piece or something.
Yeah, and I think the thing that complicates it is because this is stuff that happens in the world of Twin Peaks and stuff that happens in our world too, and maybe there's value in a show being about that, and I think they're trying to make a point about it, I guess, but also, like you were saying, how much of this episode do you see Audrey speak versus see her on the portable TV screen in Ben Horn's office, tied up as a ransom video or a blackmail video or whatever. She just has had all of that agency, the I'm Audrey Horn and I get what I want agency completely stripped away from her, and is now not even a speaking role for a little while here. I don't know. I don't know.
I think I also err on the side of you don't really need this yet. But then this is what Twin Peaks, there are things about Twin Peaks that are this. It's just right underneath the surface. So maybe there is a value to this like intense discomfort. I'm really curious what people think because I'm having trouble parsing it myself.
Yeah, same. And I think it also gets complicated when the discomfort is like part of the, I don't know, it's like part of the dramatic entertainment almost of the show. Like, whoa, look at what's happening to Audrey. This is crazy. There's kind of that tone to it too. It's like, I don't know. It's like we're watching an episode of Cops or I don't know, something
not Cops.
Like, you know what I mean? Like something like that, where it's supposed to be kind of sensational for the sake of getting you to tune in next week. And I think that the sort of TV context of it is also complicated. So I don't know. Feels weird. Maybe that's the point. It's probably the point, but it sucks. It was shot very well. The cinematography was great. I think it was really interesting to put us in Audrey's perspective there when she sees Jean Reno pull the gun, and we sort of piece together how he's feeling about Emery as Audrey does. And we also kind of feel a little bit of the I don't know, Stockholm syndrome type feelings because Emery sucks. Emery's terrible. Right. And you can't help but be a little bit relieved when he gets shot in the gut. And then you're like, wait, this is part of the theater of what Jean Reno's doing. He's not like a decent guy. And I think that the camera tells that story and puts us in that compromised position pretty effectively. Maybe that's part of what makes the scene so uncomfortable is that we experience so much of it in the first person.
Yeah, and the fact that in order to watch the rest of the episode, you have to compartmentalize that and say, okay, right. I know that that's happening. And like, we're literally about to do this because I'm saying like, yeah, that is happening. And that's really sad. Let's talk about Andy and Lucy. And
Let's talk about Andy's sperms real quick.
Yeah. Speaking of the evil that men do, having children. You have to compartmentalize. I'm sorry, but we have to move on. Like it's rough. It's fucking rough.
Right.
But again, please feedback if you have it for that stuff. And for all things. Okay. Andy and Lucy are having problems.
The most important plot of the episode, as always, is the Andy Lucy plot. And it begins with Andy calling over Doc Hayward as he's walking out of Leland's questioning. And he says the following to Doc Hayward.
It's about my sperms test.
Yes?
You know, I flunked.
That's not the precise term for it.
Well, I was just wondering if it's the kind of test you can take over, you know, like a driver's exam. I mean, I've been wearing boxer shorts every day, just like you told me.
And Doc Hayward proceeds to say, okay, here's a cup. Go put some sperm in there and bring it back to me. And then we get this weird farcical sequence that in the context of Twin Peaks is just a bit too grounded to be funny, where Andy's going to the bathroom and he's got the flesh world with him, but then he bumps into Lucy and they drop their stuff on the floor and she sees the flesh world. He's like, oh no. And she sees the restroom. Oh God, he's going to go in there. And she's mad at him about that. And then he fills up the sperm thing and then he drops it on the floor and he's trying to find it. And Cooper's like, what's that? And he's talking about the boots, but it's Andy's sperm. He thinks it's a sperm. And he's like, I'm not going to tell you about it. Come on. This is stupid. That whole sequence is dumb.
It's like 5 straight minutes.
Yeah. Just like Mr. Bean level. Oh God, the sperm rolled under the chair. Got to show you my butt real quick while I get my sperm. Stupid. Dumb. Anyway.
This feels like a bunch of 50 and 60-year-olds who were like, I've had, issues like this before, and I think it would be funny to make light of something that like men find uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like let's make a funny joke about that. It's very cheeky and like watching an old man do a dance kind of way. We're like, oh, grandpa, that's adorable.
I get that Doc Hayward is really comfortable with everybody because he's been their doctor since they were a kid or whatever. But would he do this? Would he say, go fill this up real quick, bring it out to my car, I'll wait for you there? Would he do that?
Speaking of wildly unprofessional, right? Like,
yeah. Are you allowed to do that as a doctor? I don't think so.
Like when I go to the doctor and they make me do the urine sample, at least they're like, leave the cup in there, and a person you're never going to meet is going to touch your pee. Like, don't.
Right. There's a whole like little cabinet you put it in or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. That was just a little too.
But it's very silly. The payoff in the second episode on the phone makes all the Andy stuff worth it.
Yes, that's true. We'll get there. This episode has some good Lucy stuff following that. So she's mad at Andy, and then Cooper decides to try to butt in and ask about it, which Truman later says is like trying to fix the potholes on Highway 9. Like,
bingo.
You don't bother. But these are Lucy's complaints about Andy.
He never exercises, he never washes his car, and he doesn't even own a sports coat.
Which hit a little too close to home, I think.
Yeah. All brutal, all me. Rude.
Yeah. If you had also said he doesn't have a bed frame, and no, I have one now, but
yeah, bed frame. Yeah.
Yeah. For a while I didn't. Anyway. And then Dick Tremaine shows up later in the episode. And this moment where the way this is shot is really cool, where Cooper and Sternwood have their exchange about heaven, and then they walk out of frame, and then Dick Tremaine and Lucy walk in frame, and it's this continuous single shot of their conversation. So it's this one long take that includes these overlapping stories. Anyway, and Dick Tremaine shows up with an envelope of cash, and he's there to essentially give Lucy the money she would need to get an abortion. And he's presenting it as like, I thought long and hard about this, and I decided to do the right thing, which is this. Okay. Maybe talk to her about it, Mr. Tremaine. And then Lucy's response is great.
Here's what you're going to do. Take your money, put it back in your wallet or your pocket, turn around and walk through both sets of doors. The second one sticks sometimes. Go out into the parking lot, get in your car, turn the key, and never, ever speak to me again as long as you live! Say one more word, and I'll scream! Please, please.
Pretty good. You get that great blend of Lucy over-explaining things the way that she always does. That the second door sticks sometimes. Turn the key, but also pretty solid performance there.
That's a woman standing up for herself, though.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
There's some stuff about masculinity in this episode, right? The stuff that she's saying she's annoyed that Andy doesn't do are all things that traditionally masculine men do.
Right.
Owns a sports, or like, whatever we picture the modern man as, like owns a sports coat and like washes his car and exercises.
Yeah.
And she wants a man's man. And when she turns to the guy that she got with because she thought that it was him, he does the least manly thing possible and decides to be a coward and goes like, here's some money. Go get rid of the baby that I didn't put in you. Bye. And I also am going to leave now. Awful piece of crap. So, of course, it's like very satisfying watching her push back on that finally.
Yeah, and she has this great line in her conversation with Cooper earlier where she's talking about Dick Tremaine and about how he does all the things that she thought she wanted Andy to do. And she says most of his behavior was asinine, but at least he was different. And she's trying to figure out I don't really know what I want. I have these things society has told me I want, and I guess I want them, but they both these guys suck, and I'm confused. And just a lot of depth for Lucy's character here. And I think now is a good time for me to issue a formal apology to Kimmy Robertson, because I said a couple of weeks ago that she was in the film UHF, which is incorrect. That is Victoria Jackson, who's in UHF, and I mistook the two for one another, and I wanted to apologize for that. And I also have learned that Victoria Jackson kind of sucks as a person politically, and so this is me officially endorsing when they do UHF 2 that the role be recast and Kimmy Robertson play the role. That would be pretty cool.
I would love that. That'd be perfect. When they do. Honestly, they will do. That's gonna happen.
Oh man, I my dreams would be coming true if that was the case. But that's what I got for this episode. Did you have anything else?
No, sir. No, sir, at all. Well, Majan, if we're all set here, then we're going to take it to a brief musical break. And when we come back, we will discuss The Orchid's Curse. Welcome back to PeaksChatz. The second episode we watched this week is Season 2, Episode 5, The Orchid's Curse. It was directed by Graham Clifford. It was written by Barry Pullman, and it aired October 27th, 1990. Magellan, it's almost Halloween, 1990. Tell me what happened in the episode, please.
In this episode, Cooper remembers the message under his bed, sort of. He kind of just sees it while he's doing yoga.
Remembers that there is a message under his bed, right?
Yeah. Shelley and Bobby begin Leo's home care. Sternwood hears pre-trial motions and declares Leo not fit for trial. Nadine comes home, still thinking she's in high school.
Sorry, I spent the last 30 seconds going, what the fuck is pretrial? What could that mean?
When I said it right, there was a voice in my head that was like, good job. You could have really said that wrong.
You dodged a bullet there, bud. You better not comment on it so you sound really smart.
Yeah. I want to hear your thoughts on the Orchid's curse. I just want to really quickly say, to me, this episode feels like, how would you like to watch 3 movies, but not for very long, and then watch a couple, quick sketches? And that's what this episode is. What did you think about the Orchid's curse?
Per your comment, it's all over the place. Some parts are really fun. Most parts are not very Twin Peaks. That's why I said in the first discussion that that one felt distinctly Twin Peaks. This one just feels like it's doing its own thing. We're just kind of flexing on them, and that's the one that had 5 writers. This one is just freaking one.
Oh no,
person.
the last one had five.
That's
writers,
what I'm saying.
Or four writers.
Yeah, I'm saying Laura's Secret Diary feels more cohesive despite having 4 writers.
Oh, I understand.
But the Orchid's Curse is a less coherent episode, but it has one writer.
Single writer. I see. Yep,
Barry Pullman, while I talk about your episode, I want to know what you worked on. I expect a full report, an IMDb page on my desk.
Let me know, Barry.
Barry, he worked on New Amsterdam and Roswell and Saved.
Which New Amsterdam did he work on, though?
2008 with Nikolaj Coster-Waldau.
Yeah, the one that I'm thinking of?
Yeah, on New York
And
Homicide
not the new
Detective
one?
is Cursed with Immortality. Yeah, 2008,
Yes.
not the newer one.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, great. Thanks, Barry. You're forgiven for your sins of this
Go
episode.
check out our pilot chats on Forever, which is a very similar show.
Yeah, I was like, wait, I thought you were going to say that we did that show. I was like, wait.
No, we did a show with the same premise.
Right.
Yeah.
Geez, television. There's a lot of
the tone. The tone in this episode, like you were saying, there is something about this that is like, is this Twin Peaks, right? And what is Twin Peaks? Because this one is dark and actiony and sexy. Is this what Twin Peaks is now?
And funny.
And funny. There's a lot of funny stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a good amount of funny stuff.
It's at least 3 funny scenes, one of which is about 60 seconds long.
Yeah. It just feels very like this is very prestige drama feeling.
You are tuning into HBO at 9:00 on a Sunday and you're like, what's going on with Twin Peaks? Who's going to get killed? There's a gunfight. There is a murder. Someone has an Assassin's Creed knife. Freaking genre no.
I think I just like Twin Peaks when it's a little more bucolic and a little more goofy and surreal, as opposed to the things that it's doing in this episode. I do still think that there's good stuff here, but this is just an odd hodgepodge of tones and stories going on.
I don't need Twin Peaks the action show.
Yeah.
Everything with the one-eyed Jacks at the end, I was like, this is not like, I'm happy to see my friends, my characters who are my friends, like supporting each other and like doing like heroic shit, whatever. But like, I also can tell when I'm being manipulated, and Hawk throws a throwing knife at a guy's back and they go, thanks, Hawk. He goes, I'm glad you guys are good liars. Like, what show is this? I can tell that they're like, come on, you love Hawk, don't you? And it's like, yeah, I do, but that's not because of y'all. It's because Michael Horse is
that's
charming.
not your business.
Yeah, you're not allowed to know about that. Don't talk about that to me. It's not your business. Good point.
Okay, let's talk about the comedic stuff first, I think, just to get it out of the way and cover it all at once. So the summary is giving a weird amount of priority to very minor things. Nadine comes home still thinking she's in high school. It takes all of, like you said, 60 seconds in the episode. We get one scene where she's like, oh, who are you? To James. And then she goes and pulls the door off the fridge.
Yeah.
It's really just there to remind you that this is going on.
Nadine has superpowers. She's a strong woman And she's going to high school.
James goes, wow.
No one ever reacts to Nadine's powers the way you think they will. They're just like, huh, that's weird. All right.
Yeah.
Like, this woman. And also, just speaking of like a last segment talking about vast unprofessionalism, the fact that they're like, yeah, Doc Hayward just said to, quote, just roll with the punches. Excuse me.
So I think Doc Hayward is not the best doctor, maybe.
It's literally his first name.
I did like the moment of continuity where James said, well, he tried talking to Dr. Jacoby, and Ed said, oh, he's in Hawaii getting over his heart attack.
Yeah, just reminds you that things happen, and also the Jacoby stuff. Like, we know he's still a character.
Yeah. And then there's another moment in this one or the previous one where Judge Stern would ask Cooper how long he's been in Twin Peaks, and Cooper's like 12 days because it's only been 12
handy.
days.
That's handy to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just thinking about buying property.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have anything else to say about Nadine?
No, I love her. And I wish the best for her, as always.
I'm ready for a full 20-minute plot on Nadine in high school. Sure.
20 minutes?
Why not?
That's almost half the episode.
Bring it on. Season 2. Make that the A plot. See what it does to me.
Yeah. Try your luck.
So
Candy's
that's
dead.
that. Let's see. What else is funny? Oh, we get some Bobby Shelley stuff. Bobby and Shelley are talking to this sleazy salesman guy who's trying to sell them all this stuff for home care for Leo. Mm-hmm. There's a contraption to lift you onto the bed and it's not working. And then he gets it to work later and he's whacking himself against the wall. Pretty good. Pretty funny.
It goes
practical
long.
Comedy. Yeah, but it's good.
Mr. Pinkle is the man's name.
Great name.
Well, I like it when Bobby like kabedons him against the wall and he's like, listen up, Pinkle. I'm in like a teen drama, like a high school drama.
My favorite, my first big laugh in this scene was this moment.
Mr. Pinkle, are you going to install a ramp?
Well, sure, of course. Of course. As a matter of fact, I already have some plywood pine wood ramp boards that I'll install tomorrow. Absolutely. It's a very good suggestion. Now,
he's like, ramp. What makes a ramp? Pine.
Did they
wood.
like not give the actor lines there, and they were like, just answer her?
I think that's just him doing an incredibly naturalistic job with this character, because that's the point, is that this guy didn't think of that, didn't have that ready, is making it up on the spot. Bobby's getting mad at him for saying plywood. So that's a pretty funny moment.
I love Mr. Pinkle, and I want him to be around for the whole show. I
want more Pinkle.
Just there's something to be said. This will come up more when we actually see Leo put into the contraption, but Twin Peaks really does have this sort of obsession with like disability and how we treat disabled people, and also like what that means, if that gives you a power or if that makes you vulnerable in the case of Leo, because this is something they're going to use to like feed him and get him to bed and stuff. Like it's a like life-saving device that's treated as this joke of like, oh, you got to hit it to make it work and like slap the button a couple times. It's also like dropping a pin-pulled grenade into the room, because you know that device is going to act up again. The Chekhov's gun is the other term for that. It's like, this is now going. You're just watching it with the expectation that that'll happen later.
I just looked at. I couldn't help it. I just looked at Tim Pinkle's Twin Peaks wiki page to see if he comes back, and he does. And I can't wait.
I'm glad.
I can't wait. I'm gonna read the first sentence of this in the spoiler zone. So.
Okay,
we'll talk about that later.
Binkle.
The only other big comedic scene is perhaps one of the best in the show, and I have a 1 minute long recording of it. You want to listen to it?
I do. We'll play it for the folks.
So it's Andy on the phone. He calls the doctor's office after, his giving his sperms in the previous episode, and this is how that phone call goes.
Analysis. Brennan. Andy.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, sir.
Sorry. Brennan. Andy.
Well, that's the part that he says louder and not Siemens and Elsa.
Of course.
Yes. Could you go slow? I want to write all this down. Oligospermia. That's right. That sounds terrible. I have that? No, sir, you had that. Oh, I had it. Uh-huh. It means too few sperms.
Very good.
You mean
sir.
I'm cured? Doc says there are not just 3 men on a fishing trip. They're a whole damn town. That's right, sir. Do you understand? Yeah, I know what that means. It means they're not really real people. They're Oh, okay. Thank you. You're welcome, sir. Thank you very much. I'm a whole damn town. I'm a whole damn town.
Hold on.
There it is.
Okay,
that's the part. They didn't have to let us hear the voice of the telephone operator on the other side or whatever, the assistant. But it's so much funnier that we do, and that she just completely picks up on the situation, and she's like, "I am talking to an adult child. Good job, Andy. Your sperm. You got oleos, whatever the term is. Like, you got it. Good job."
Yeah, and there are a couple other jokes too in the scene that are visual gags. So it starts with Andy's at the front desk at the sheriff's office, and he's got some sticky notes on him, and you're like, uh-oh, Andy's not having a good time organizing things. And then the shot pulls away from him, and the further it pulls away, the more sticky notes there are on more surfaces, which I thought was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And then the other really funny visual gag is when Andy says, "I'm a whole damn town" to Harry Truman. Truman just gives him a smile like, "You sure are, buddy.
Yeah, you are. Good job. I'm so proud of you." I
don't know what you're talking about, but nicely done. The Truman Andy relationship is pretty wholesome.
It's because it's just Truman, like, he's like, "I'm gonna go beat up a bunch of French Canadians in a sketchy bar." Oh, your sperm count is back up? Congratulations.
Love to hear it, bro.
Tell me about it later.
Yeah. I also liked the other sort of comedic moment is Lucy's going out of town for the next couple of days, which means the next couple episodes are going to suck. But we'll make do.
Objectively untrue, but go off.
And she's doing the thing where she's worried about, like, oh, is everything going to be okay while I'm gone? And I think up to this point, we've only really gotten a picture of Lucy at work as being not the best at her job. You know, she's fine at it, but she's always switching the phone calls really slowly and getting confused about stuff. And then we see what it's like for somebody else to do her job, and you realize, oh, Lucy's actually very good at her job.
The only one who can do this job. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I thought that was a nice touch.
Lucy's valuable.
Yeah.
It's true.
But that's the funny stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to talk about next?
I want to talk about we have Action Movie, we have The Roadhouse, and we have Donna and Harold. I want to talk about and then let's talk about Mr. Tajimura for like a minute.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Ben Horn is introduced to a mysterious Asian man who comes to his office and introduces himself as Mr. Tajimura, and he drops a $5 million check and says, "I'm here to invest in the Ghostwood Estates. I'm buying out the account, basically."
Yep.
Where could this plot go? The toilet.
Yeah, it's pretty stinky.
It's this one, PU. I do like when Cooper comes in before the rescue to Ben's office. There's just good mechanics going on here, where it's like, first of all, there's always fun background characters in the hotel. I think there was like some. I think they were like I can't like prescribe a faith to them, but they were in like Middle Eastern head wraps, and they're just in the background as Cooper is like walking to Ben, and Hank is behind him. Hank sneaks behind a like secret wall, and he's like, "Cooper's coming," and then Ben and Cooper talk for like a minute about Audrey stuff, and then Hank peeks out of the door and is like, "I'm here too." Like, it's just so farcical. This whole space and how everybody is just like listening at all times to each other. You would think any like
Yeah.
competent adult would realize how many secret walls there are in the Great Northern.
Yeah. It also just further, I mean, across the previous episode and this one, you further get the sense that Ben Horn really sucks. There's not much to be redeemed here, because when Jean Reno in the previous episode says, "Hey, you got to send Cooper to me and I'm going to kill him," or whatever, Ben doesn't tell Cooper that. He just goes along with it, even though there's not really anything binding him to doing that. He could just tell Cooper, and now Cooper knows that he's going into a trap or something.
Yeah.
But no, he doesn't. He instead hires Hank to make sure that Cooper goes into the trap and gets killed. It's like, Ben, why?
Also, why does Cooper fall for it?
Yeah, why does Cooper fall for it? And then in the previous episode, I forgot to mention this, but the things that Ben says to convince Cooper to go, he says, "You and Audrey have a special relationship." Gross.
Yuck.
"You of all people understand her value to me."
Yeah.
What? She's your daughter.
Your
Like,
literal like flesh and blood biological daughter, I think.
He just can't. He can't do anything without it being a scheme
Or a transaction.
Right, or a transaction. He has to loom over Cooper and be like, "You understand how much value my daughter brings me."
My daughter, guys. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Ben has no empathy. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
Not a lick of it.
Yeah. He's just there to eat nuts and walk out of Leland's hearing right away.
Thank you for the segue. It's time to talk about Leland's hearing in the Roadhouse. Huh.
Yeah.
Hold on. It's almost as if the show is trying to say that there's something about the legal system that's a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, or something about the number of sets that they have, I guess.
Also true. There's no way they could afford a whole courtroom set just for stuff like this. No.
Yeah.
So they do the court case for, is it for Leo?
It's not even the case. It's the pre-trial for Leland and Leo. Because for Leland, they're setting bail conditions.
Yeah.
From what I understand, because I think he's still going to stand trial later for the murder of Jacques Renault.
Yeah.
But the result of Leland's thing here, I'm not a legal guy. I don't know all the legal stuff. But the result of the thing here is the judge says that Leland is released on his own recognizance and just has to stay in town until his trial.
Mm-hmm.
And it's determined that Leo is not fit to stand trial currently, given his condition. And so they're going to wait until if and when he gets better, to actually put him on trial.
Love. Another one episode and gone guest character, Jack Racine, Leo's attorney with his stupid yellow bolo tie.
Incredible. It looks like he's a present or something with that tie on.
Cooper said every day, give yourself a present. And he said, I'm the present.
This man with his glasses, his big yellow bow tie on saying perspicacity or whatever.
Perspicacity. So
I'm into it.
Having a ready insight into and understanding things. It's like clarity for people. I also had to Google what perspicacity means. I forgot.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course. So
we're doing some legal stuff at the Roadhouse. Okay. Maybe this town doesn't have a lot of buildings. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why is...
Sorry.
Why is the sheriff of the town speaking... Why is the sheriff of the town speaking in defense of this guy that he arrested?
Because Leo's a member of the community?
Uh-huh.
This is supposed to... It's just there's so many disparate elements, and then the show just like throws characters in so that they can make sense in the moment. That's how... It's like, I don't think that the writers are thinking about this like, how do we make a good court scene or how do we make a good trial, whatever. It's more like, how do we get everybody to say their monologue? Like, just give them their scene. So, like, Truman gets to say, like, well, the definition of brain dead is blah, 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 and I think it's unfair that you do this, and because I know Leo. But, like, they're compromised, dog. You can't stand on a pre-trial thing.
I think my issue with these scenes is that they have a really muddled sense of what justice is, and the show's kind of commenting on it, but kind of not. Because like I was saying in the previous episode, what's at the core of the decisions that Judge Sternwood makes is empathy for individual people. He has empathy for Leland Palmer and for the fact that he's gone through this horrible, loss, and he's a good guy, and a good guy would only murder someone if they were really sad or whatever. And the show presents that, at least in this moment, as like this moment of mercy that I feel really conflicted about, because I'm not the kind of person who's like, we need harsher punishments or anything like that. And I don't necessarily think that a punitive justice system is a good thing. And
Agreed.
It doesn't really feel fair that Leland is getting a pass here, because he's in the boys club. He's in the same boys club that the sheriff and the judge are in. It feels like that says more about privilege than it does about justice, and the show doesn't really seem like it's conscious of that.
Right. Doesn't Leland also just get the, like, you don't leave town and keep keep the sheriff wherever you are and you won't go to jail?
Yeah. Right.
Huh?
Right.
He admitted to a murder?
Yeah. It's not even like he's a suspect. He confessed.
There is evidence.
He did it. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not a legal guy, and
let's ask legal about this episode.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of prison and things like that. And also, I know what would happen to somebody not of Leland's stature or race or gender in this situation.
Yes.
And it would not go this way for those folks.
No, he slides out of the DMs. He's fine.
Yeah. And the other aspect of this is what happens with Leo, because it's presented this time the show is like, there's more of a commentary happening here, because there's this empathy for Leo, and he's going to go home with Shelley, and the judge is like, hey, Truman, you want to go tell her the good news? Truman's so excited to tell Shelley that she's going to get to take Leo home. And in this case, that these guys don't get it. They don't understand how horrible it's been for Shelley to live with Leo, how horrible it's going to be for her to have him around. They just think like, oh yeah, sweet Shelley from down the street. She's going to get to have her husband at home.
She must be so happy.
Yeah. And so maybe that's supposed to allow us to have that perspective on Leland being let off a bit easy. I don't know, but there's at least more of a commentary happening there. And then there's also the last bit I'll say is that there's this odd moment where the show really seems like it's taking a stance on having some sort of definition of justice, because the DA says when they're talking about Leo, it's not just about this individual guy and like his current condition and having the right kind of trial for him. It's also the fact that Laura Palmer's death and the crimes that Leo is in some way tied to or suspected of having committed, those things have had a harmful effect on the community at large.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of like catharsis or community retribution that could be had by making him stand trial. And the show seems to reject that idea, which I found interesting, because I think on a certain level, I reject that idea too, because that feels like it comes from the sort of punitive place.
It also comes from the sense that like, if something from the outside damages the community, then we don't talk about it and we don't worry about it. And if it does, then it absolutely objectively needs to be punished, because you damaged the precious, sweet, untouchable community.
Right. But also it has hurt the community, which is where I'm conflicted about it. Like there does need to be some kind of justice, but yeah, what does that even look like? And so I think the show poses those things sort of in an okay way, and then doesn't really do much with it.
At least not yet. Well, the judge pulls aside Truman and Cooper And he's like, what do you guys think? And they're like, well, you got to think about the town. He's like, well, what does the town think? And then I think it's Truman who's like, the town just wants to see the bad person punished. The person who did bad should be punished, which is like the traditional way that we think about ideally how a justice system should work. And then they get a drink, which again, Sid is a bartender now. She makes them this like really strong cocktail. So the implication is that they're like, whew, all right. I think I saw somebody make this either on Binging with Babish or one of those like we make alcoholic drinks from TV show YouTube channels. I might look that up later, but she makes them this like blue and black beverage. And then they're like, yeah, I don't think that. First of all, I don't think that Leo's fit to stand trial for himself. Or not, quote, not competent. And we recommend that he just goes home. And then speaking of Sternwood being like wiser than he has any like reason to be, it's been implied, by the way, that when he was introduced that everyone knows him. Like he's the judge that comes to Twin Peaks, right? So he like talks to Lucy when he sees her and it's like, oh, Lucy, how are you? And she like misses him and hugs him or whatever. And then he turns to Cooper and he says, I advise that you keep your eyes on the woods. You never know what's out there, basically. And it's like, does Sternwood know something that we don't know? He does. He definitely does.
It's sort of a fun result of the show, of every episode being a day, that you can introduce a character in episode 13 and just say, yeah, everybody knows them. They've been here the whole time, because the course of the show that we've seen has really only taken 2 weeks. Yeah. And you can just say, oh, he's been out of town and now he's back and everybody knows him.
He lives here. He knows all the people.
And you can't really get away with that in a show where it's like, no, it's been 3 months. Why haven't we seen this judge before? Why is everybody pretending that they know him?
Know the judge, yeah. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about the final scene of the last episode, which was Hank fighting Jonathan in the fucking dark, by the way.
Whatever.
Yeah, and then he breaks the glass.
Josie sends Jonathan to go intimidate Hank.
And it's like
just get rid of Hank. What interesting is happening around Hank at
deeply wanted that scene to go a different way. I was like, because I watched Marvel's What If this morning, which is a new show where they're like, oh, what if Captain America was Peggy Carter instead?
Is that animated or
it's animated?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always liked the What If comics.
Yeah.
I used to buy those.
This episode in particular was like fine. That's my like day of review of it. But anyways, so I was thinking about like what if the universe where Jonathan did kill Hank, and Josie like gets to come into her power way earlier in the series, and like, and just Norma's like, well, that was easy. She just gets with Ed, and Josie gets to be with like everyone, and it's great. Everyone has a good time.
Yeah.
How many problems would you solve?
What value does the show get out of Hank's continued existence?
He causes problems. Do you want problems in your show?
I guess. I mean, the only thing he really does in this one is he gets caught by some folks at One Eye Jacks, and is that what happens? Is that One Eye Jacks people that catch him?
Who, at Hank?
Yeah, at the end of the second
I
episode.
believe so, yes.
And they think that he's the DA guy because he has the DA guy's ID.
Yes.
Like, okay. So
neat.
Cool. Anyway, they just need a bad guy to do bad stuff.
Yeah, that's really like an objectively bad guy, just because we don't like have another one right now.
We got Jean Reno though.
I guess. But Jean Reno's like a sneaky in the background guy who, here you go, let's talk about this real quick, is like chatting with Blackie O'Reilly. They're eating fresh fruit together, and he spears the fruit with a wrist blade because his plan is to like do an exchange with Cooper and then stab him in the wrist. It's Assassin's
the
Creed.
physics of that didn't make complete sense to me. But
he's like, give me the briefcase, as if it's a handshake, and then goes, hiya, and then I do this, and then shake, and I kill Cooper in one stab.
Yeah.
That wouldn't work. That's not how that works. At all. It's just cool looking at it. It's kind of the sexual activity of him stabbing a fruit, and Blackie's like, oh my God.
Sure. And then later they have sexual history that they talk about, and
Blackie's got a sister named Nancy,
and he's with Nancy because she's like new and not Blackie, and then he kills Blackie later, and that's the end of Blackie O'Reilly. I didn't realize she died this early.
Yeah, I knew that she wasn't a big deal, but come on. And he does like a kiss too. He like smooches her, and then as they kiss, she dies. Okay.
I remembered her being more significant. than this, but I guess I'm wrong.
Maybe the Nancy stuff goes somewhere. Truly not bearing the lead here. Don't remember. Don't care. Don't remember. Just get rid of John Renaud.
This would have been so much better if there was just like this direct conflict between Ben Horne and Blackie O'Reilly, and Blackie O'Reilly is like masterminding this whole blackmail thing.
Yeah, actually, who needs John Renaud? Get rid of him. Don't get rid of her.
Yeah.
That's better.
Yeah. Because that's the whole point, is that the Horne brothers did something to her based on what she said, and she's using this as a chance to exact revenge and reclaim her agency over One-Eyed Jacks and all that. And like, that's kind of an interesting story. And instead they say, no, but look at this cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a wrist blade.
He's Altair.
Stupid.
It's truly stupid, fully stupid. So the episode becomes an action movie here, like we were saying. The Bookhouse Boys, which are Truman and Cooper, I guess now, infiltrate One-Eyed Jacks. They tell Hawk that they're doing something else and that he can go home for the day. And he's like, okay, I will think nothing of this. They go there. They have a bunch of like stealth video game moments where they're like, hey, you! And the guy looks at them and then they punch him in the stomach and knock him out and steal his stuff. It's literally just like watch them beat up a bunch of toughs.
Truman very quickly puts a ball gag in a guy's mouth and tapes it, and
it's amazing.
Hits him to the ground. It's like, whoa, okay.
You're good at this. You practice this.
Someone's a cop. Someone is a cop.
Someone's
but also an extra legal Bookhouse boy.
Yeah, that was scary. How quick that was.
Yeah.
He ball gags a guy that puts a tape on him. They break in. There's a guy who tries to shoot them. Well, no, they find John, and Truman's like, I'll take him. And then he kills Blackie, and he's about to do it. And then John shoots him, misses, blah, blah, blah. And then they're about to leave. They're like, we got Audrey. And she's like, my prayers have been answered. My favorite secret agent is finally here to save me. And they're like untying her, and then they leave. And then, there's some random other street tough. If you've seen action movies and like a guy goes, I found you, put your hands up, and he's standing center frame, he's going to get either shot or stabbed in the back.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the rules. It's always true.
Definitely.
Hawk realizes what the boys were up to, gets this guy with a throwing knife, which is sick. And then they're like, thanks, Hawk.
Kills that guy.
That guy's dead. The life leaves his eyes and he's dead. Pops. What you gonna do when they come for you? A cap. No. So then they get Audrey out. She's free. Good for Audrey, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there anything else to this?
No. It's just why is it have to be like this? I'm not interested in this at all. This action movie swashbuckling James Bond thing, whatever they're trying to do.
I think it's as simple as they wanted to get Audrey out of there and needed to just like do it in one episode. They're like, get it out, get it done. So hopefully, maybe we're not going to see One-Eyed Jacks anymore. We no longer have any entities here, except I guess John's still here.
Well, Jean Renaud and Nancy are still alive, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I thought they got away. I thought they left though.
I don't know. I don't think we see what happens to them.
Okay.
Yet.
So maybe we still have some OEJ in us. And finally, one of the darker plots so far, we have Donna and Harold's adventures continuing. Donna coordinates with Maddie that one night she's going to get very close and personal with Harold and basically like talk to him and then give a signal via flashlight to Maddie outside that she can come in and steal Laura's secret diary and that Donna won't be implicated and that they can get off with the diary. This seems to go fine for a while. She is dictating her life story to Harold for his living book or living biography. Living novel, thank you. It gets pretty dark. She talks about the stuff that her and Laura did as teenagers and the sort of like them trying to act like adults when they were 13, 14, I believe she says. Maybe she even says 12, 13.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but young.
She's
talking about them skinny dipping and kissing boys.
She felt jealous that boys wanted to be with Laura, and so she like pushed her sexuality more. Again, teenagers, super uncomfortable. But like, does this work better than the Audrey stuff? I kind of think it does.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I mean, because it's this is about Donna and we're like learning about her as a character and her interiority, and she's doing stuff. So yeah,
not just stuff happening to her.
So. And I think that there's the similar feeling of I'm uncomfortable with this. I don't like watching this, but I don't know. Maybe there's something good to the fact that Donna as a character is able to be so like frank about her sexuality, which is not something that's stigmatized for women.
Right.
I guess. Or maybe this is kind of voyeuristic for us to be having this like moonlit shot of Donna being like, and then I kissed him, and it was
with like
really
beautiful music,
sexy, and I don't know. I'm not sure, but I think it's better.
Well, it's also supposed to make us
understand
that Donna's a bit of a bad person here, because the first time she hits him with the trade, and they does the first reading, she tries forcing him out of his house, which is like really awful to do to a person with agoraphobia. She like takes the diary and says, "Just come on out and get it." And then in the sun, he passes out because his body's not used to that. He hasn't experienced that in years.
Yeah.
So it definitely like darkens up Donna's backstory a lot.
Does she like Harold?
I think there are things about Harold that she likes. There are things about him that she likes, but she ultimately sees him as a resource.
Do you think so?
Well, say more about what you're pulling at.
I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to tell because there are moments where there's, like sexual tension and attraction between them. There's the whole bit where they're both fondling the same orchid, and orchids are deeply vaginal. Let's just say that.
Georgia O'Keeffe realized this before the rest of us did.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, this is the part of the orchid where the bee
labellum.
docks are. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there. And there's, I don't know, like it, because when she tells the story of, was it Tim who they were skinny dipping with, and he kissed her. She's like, that's the first time I fell in love. It makes you wonder, does she have genuine affection for Harold? Does she like, in the same way that Harold likes the diary, that she has this like guy to herself, kind of, right?
Uh-huh.
Does she like to exercise power over him by stealing the diary and running outside and, kind of torturing him a little bit? It's a complicated thing. Or is she just manipulating him for the sake of getting the diary? Because she also seems genuinely remorseful when he gets upset.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's complicated.
I'll wrap this point up by saying that I think she is what the show is. It's letting us see what Laura would be like if she was still alive, in a way. Like the duality of her life. Like, Donna's a good Christian girl, but also like does all this stuff and proudly admits it to somebody that she feels a sort of trust in. Whereas Maddie is like the physical embodiment of Laura. Donna is like the personality and the spirit of Laura kept alive. So I think that stuff really does really work. And like the fact that this scene ends with Donna, like her cigarette falls on the ground, and it's like this loss of innocence thing of like, she started smoking cigarettes to be more like Laura, and now it's like it's collapsing around her. It's starting to break apart. It's fragile.
Yeah.
I'm really curious where Donna ends up going. I genuinely, I think I'm in the dark after this point.
Yeah, I don't remember what happens for her next for the rest of the season, honestly.
But she sends a signal to Maddie. Maddie tries to jump in. She does it terribly. She falls on something. Harold's like, "What was that noise?" And then Donna's trying to get him to not go there. And whoops, he found Maddie, and he freaks out. And instead of killing them, all the angles go completely Dutch at this point.
Yeah,
fully Dutch, and he.
They wish I still had that Dick Tremaine line. We'll go Dutch.
Oh my god. That's incredible. Yes. They go Dutch, and he says, do you know the ultimate secret, ladies? The ultimate secret is the secret of knowing who killed you. And he takes one of the rakes that he uses to, take care of his orchids, and he scrapes it along his left cheek, forming a 3-pronged scar. And Donna and Maddie scream in horror.
I
as the
really
episode
wish that
ends.
line was better.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, he's about to say something really profound, like the ultimate secret. And then he says, it's knowing who killed you. What?
Well, no one gets to know who killed them because you die before you know who did it.
But also, not everybody gets killed.
Oh.
That's why it's the universality of it is a little limited, I would say.
It serves more as a breadcrumb for the next part of the Laura plot, which is like, now we just need to know who killed Laura. Like, okay.
Yeah. I just, there is just so much to like about Harold and so much depth to him. And for his line at the end of this to culminate in him, instead of being a character, being like a horrific image, to be sort of absorbed into like the spooky Laura Palmer plot without his humanity. It was kind of like, this sucks. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there's the moment where he's first recording Donna's story. And I just thought that scene was so good. The scene that leads up to her taking the diary outside, the exchange that they have is beautiful, where he says, okay, well, where are you from? And then she turns it around and says, where are you from? And he kind of gets terrified by that question, by being asked, and, you know, the terror of being known, or whatever that quote is. Mm-hmm. He says the line that I called you at the beginning of the episode, I grew up in Boston. Actually, I grew up in books, which is a great line. Mm-hmm. And then they have this exchange here.
There's things you can't get in books.
There are things you can't get anywhere. But we dream they can be found in other people.
And that's what he allows himself to dream, that he'll find things in Donna, and then he has that dream crushed. And I just wish that the end of the episode related back to that idea, instead of being like, and you know what's so scary is when you don't know who killed you.
Yeah, why do we
go
for
my
the
face open?
Why do we go for the goofy like thriller ending when we could have like sat in that pathos for a minute and been like, oh, the person I finally trusted in betrayed me. I feel completely gutted, and not gutted like with a rake.
Not gutting my own self right now.
Yeah, it's trying to physically show that. It's really silly.
Yeah.
Oh well. Sorry, Harold. Harold's another victim of the season 2 curse. If you're too interesting and you're not in the main cast, you have to die in the next couple episodes. Or do something crazy. I don't know. Love Harold though. Big fan. And big fan of Twin Peaks. Even though it's getting really goofy. Do you have any stray notes on this episode?
The only clip that I have left that I haven't played yet is a great little moment from Cooper at the beginning of the episode.
And 6:42 a.m. Rough sleep. I dreamt I was eating a large, tasteless gumdrop. I awoke to realize I was aggressively munching on one of my air pillow silicone earplugs. Hence the tastelessness.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that's really fun. I love a good Diane scene.
And then he does yoga and he sees the note and he's like, dang, that giant was right. I did forget something.
The note that was on the floor of my hotel room. I guess it's like under the bed.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine.
Anyway, that's it. It's fine, sort of hodgepodge of an episode.
What was the Orchid's Curse? A mediocre episode of Twin Peaks. We figured it out, folks. Can you tell the folks what we're watching next time on PeaksChatz, please?
Next week on PeaksChatz, we are watching Season 2, Episodes 6 and 7, Demons and Lonely Souls. First off, Demons. James saves the girls from a tormented Harold, so you know how that goes.
Of course.
Cooper brings Audrey home. Makes sense. Bobby and Shelley learn that their insurance plans have backfired.
Uh-oh.
Donna tries to convince Truman that Harold Smith has Laura's secret diary. All right, cool. There we go. And then there are sentences in the description for Lonely Souls that I don't want to read.
You
so that's
super duper can't read that one. Yeah, so I don't even want to tell people. No, just we've talked about like the arc of season 2. We're concluding an arc this next week. How about that?
Yeah. Yep.
An arc concludes next time on PeaksChatz.
It's an important episode.
You should, if you're not watching along with us, at least try to watch Lonely Souls because it's
all those skip lists probably told you to watch that one.
Yes.
Let's say that.
Correct.
Well, Alan, that does it. You want to tell the folks all our plugs, where to find us and contact us and stuff?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking. If you would like to email us questions, comments, concerns, chatspod@gmail.com is the place. We also have a Twitter @chatspod. We have a subreddit r/chatspod. All instances of that are spelled CHATZPOD. We encourage you, if you like the show, to rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow us there, whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We're probably there, and we would appreciate your reviews. Those help us out a lot. If you have some dosh that you would like to spend on bonus Chats content or just want to support your friends here at Chats, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/chatspod. Over there, you can get all sorts of bonus content ranging from film commentaries to piloting new shows to just talking about whatever the heck we dang feel like it. Or taking suggestions from a wheel that has selections picked by patrons. We also have a Patreon-exclusive Discord, which is a lot of fun, and where we get a lot of our fun Twin Peaks jokes from. So all of that can be found at patreon.com/chatspod. And if you happen to be one of the lucky people who support us at $5 a month or more over on there, then you get a thank you at the end of the episode, like Kat, Marcus, Nick, Pat, Fendon, Ryan, Six, and Stefan. Thank you for supporting Chats, a television podcast. We also have a website for all things Chats. It is chatspod.com, and our podcast logo art was done by Camilla, who can be found on all social media platforms as Camilla Strader. Thank you to Camilla for being very cool. Now, Marge, we do a final segment here before we dip into spoiler territory after the 30-second musical ending. This part is called Chatsome. So instead of our personal plugs, we recommend things for the folks, and these are things for them to consume, bite-sized little treats between this and the next episode of Chats. Can you recommend a Chatsome for everyone today?
Yes, I can. My Chatsome this week is particularly bite-sized. It is a musical recommendation, but it's not a song or an album. It's a single verse on a single song, and that is Nas this week put out his newest album. It's called King's Disease 2, and there's a song on there called Nobody, and it's his reflections on the downsides of fame and the desire to find a place where you can be nobody. And his verses are pretty good. It's I think an interesting message, even though there's a line where he says the concept of this song is pretty esoteric. It's not that esoteric, Nas. Anyway, but then out of the clear blue sky comes an incredible verse from Miss Lauryn Hill that is easily rocketed to like one of my favorite features ever. It was great. So check it out. Nobody, Nas featuring Lauryn Hill on King's Disease 2.
I spent too many years living too uncomfortably, making room for people who didn't like the labor or wanted the spoils, greedy, selfish behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Is Lauryn Hill the leftist icon that we deserve? No, I'm just kidding. But she is wonderful and amazing, and Nobody is a really good song. Honestly, I liked most of King's Disease 2. I think it has its ups and downs, but Nobody is definitely the best track on the album. Most definitely.
Yeah. There's some other good songs if you want to listen to the whole thing. The whole thing is like pretty decent. Anthony Fantano gave it a light 8, which is pretty good. He gave My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy a 6 though, so you know, who's to say that his opinions
I still don't
are
trust
correct.
him no matter what he says. I can't because of that partly.
But yeah, if you want to throw the album on it, it's pretty good, but I recommend that song in particular.
Yes, that's Nobody by Nas featuring Lauryn Hill. Magellan, I have a chatsome for you.
Yeah, what is it?
Well, actually, I have a double because one of them is a soft chatsome that I've already sort of recommended, but now that I have finished it, I feel comfortable giving it the hard recommendation. It's the podcast S-Town. It's from the This American Life and Serial production crew. S-Town is a podcast from 2017. If you haven't heard of it, it's about a small town in the southern United States and the interesting people that live there. And one of them actually emailed This American Life and said, hey, there was a murder down here that wasn't tried. They weren't tried fairly. And I think that the police are corrupt here, and I want you to send a guy down to investigate. And that's all I'm going to say, because it doesn't go where you expect it to. I think in the realm of like 2017 to 2020, like people's obsession with true crime podcasts, S-Town sits in a fascinating place by being much more intimate and personal and less about the crime that seems to be at the center of it and more about the people involved in this town. It's a deeply personal and beautiful story that made me cry multiple times. All of it was released at once. It kind of functions as a 7-chapter book. I have huge qualms with certain parts of it, as I do with most complicated art, because it gets into people's personal lives in ways that I think are a little invasive. But it wraps up extraordinarily well and made me think a lot about my life and, how I live it. So if you want to be in your feelings, you should check out S-Town. And it's different than you think from episode 1. Give it a couple episodes. You'll get into it. And then my sort of secondary indulgent chatsum is a local dance crew / YouTube channel that go by the name of Hush or Hush Crew on YouTube, if you look them up. Basically, they're a bunch of young folks in the Boston area who do really, really fantastic K-pop dance covers, filmed around Boston primarily. And I had the pleasure just last night of attending one of their shootings live. Filmings, that's the word I'm looking for. Attending one of their filmings live, which was an awesome experience because, especially with the pandemic and everything, getting to go to a K-pop concert is a privilege that not many of us have or can have access to. But getting to just see a bunch of people like do an absolutely on-point cover of a Twice song, like a couple feet away from me, was a really unique experience. And just getting to see, like, when you see the final product on YouTube, you're like, oh, this looks really well done and they're really impressive. But like watching the roughness on the way there was really fascinating. And like how they navigate, because these are done, like I said, in public. So it's like how many takes had to be stopped because a car came by or a woman was dancing in the background. Like it was a really fascinating experience. So again, that's Hush Crew. They can be found on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all the good stuff. Cool. Magellan, that's what I have for you now. As we mentioned before, if you stick around after the 30-second musical break, you're going to be hearing spoilers for all sorts of Twin Peaks stuff, including seasons 1, 2, and Fire Walk with Me. But for now, thank you to Magellan for being the Agent Truman to my Agent Cooper. You're Agent Truman. I know he's not an actual agent, but you're an agent. You're not a sheriff to me. You're my agent. Just like Audrey, like Cooper is her agent. Anyways. Thank you, everybody else, for listening. And that was a damn fine podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the spoiler zone. Let's talk about spoilers. All right, cool. If you're here, you're cool.
And you've also seen seasons 1 and 2 and Fire Walk with Me, or you don't mind if we spoil those for you.
Yes.
No return spoilers here, don't worry.
Nope, absolutely not. Although I will say something briefly just about one of the overall. I said like I have a second theme that I noticed in this episode. So we get a lot of cuts to stoplights. The two most popular fades between scenes in these episodes lately have been cut to the forest or cut to stoplights. That's stoplights going from green to yellow to red, and it's like, oh, the light is red.
Or some shots of the moon in there.
Those are really good too. Yes. I think that the spotlights one is kind of the stoplights one is seeding this idea of technology and the intrusion of technology upon this idyllic like forest town. That there's like something eerie about it, something unsettling about like a stoplight in the middle of the night. And it's just like this dangling red light. There's something literary about that. That is made more textual in Fire Walk with Me and made deeply textual in The Return. So keep an eye out for technology and how different people think about it. Also, like with the whole movement device with Leo, it's like the show has a weird sort of relationship with like machines and how things interact with humanity.
What's the machine stuff in Fire Walk with Me?
Off the top of my head, I was watching an essay that was about this. It was one of those Twin Perfect essays. So I'm not specifically remembering anything right now, but I know he was talking about that as a theme. Maybe it's just something that we should keep in mind for now.
Okay.
But
Interesting.
it's the unfortunate thing about the spoiler segment is sometimes I can say, like, you guys will hear about this later, and then you can ask me, like, Alan, what is it? And I'm like, I don't remember.
Well, you said it was made textual in Fire Walk with Me, which is why I was curious.
Yeah. I think there's more there, but so much of Fire Walk with Me is like blurry in my head right now that I can't remember it.
Gotcha.
We've got Empty Wentz.
I looked this up.
All right. Great. It's not that interesting.
No, it's not. I was like, what? Wait. Huh? It's just some lady.
It's a lady. It's just a lady. When they say, like, is it a dude? Is it even a dude? It's just a lady.
And it's like a lady that Norma knows.
She's Norma's stepmom.
Yeah, whatever.
That's cool, I guess. Hawk has a report to Harry Truman. Totally brushed by this. So elegant of us to not even bring it up because it's such a brief scene. Let me find the description of this scene from the wiki. Hawk reports to Harry Truman that 2 retired school teachers live next door to the Palmer's old house, and they have no memory of a gray-haired man living next door. So they don't remember Bob being there, is what they're saying?
Yeah.
So Bob was never actually there. What Leland was talking about last week is not true. Maybe?
Well, it's true. It's just not true.
Say more about that.
I mean?
No.
Well, because he's remembering he's partially remembering interactions that he had with Bob and like abuse that happened to him that was done to him by his dad, I think. Maybe.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure about that.
It's somebody in his family. I can't remember who.
Okay.
But he's remembering it as like this guy next door used to throw cigarettes at me and has suppressed the rest of it. And so like he's remembering Bob because he has seen Bob, but Bob is not a real flesh and blood guy. So those neighbors wouldn't know him. Like Leland wasn't lying to the cops.
The cops. He just doesn't know.
Yeah. This genuinely to him, he thinks it's like a real memory. Because he's not consciously aware that he killed Laura or anything like that. Because he's just not consciously aware of it because that was Bob.
Interesting. That's more interesting than what I thought, which was just that he's lying.
Yeah, well, he wouldn't really have any reason to like make that up.
Yeah, because what is that going to lead them to? That's not the correct answer.
Right.
Okay, it makes sense. Did you have any big ones? Because my last one is about Mr. Tajimura.
I just wanted to read the first line of Tim Pinkle's wiki page here.
I read it. It's so good. Here you go.
Tim Pinkle was a dance choreographer, pine weasel expert, and home care salesman.
Beautiful.
He was also a taxidermist and owned Tim and Tom's Taxidermy with his blind brother Tom, who drove a taxi. Oh, I get it. Taxidermy. He drove a taxi with a set of antlers on the roof while Tim himself gave him directions. Tim was the one who stuffed animals. And he like choreographs the Miss Twin Peaks pageant at the end of the season.
Well, the what?
Yeah, so
okay,
that's gonna be pretty awesome.
I have a note about credits that I didn't notice until this week.
Okay.
So for folks who have seen Star Trek Discovery, I'm not going to spoil anything about it, although it is a really, really dumb, very predictable spoiler. Shazad Latif plays Ash Tyler on that show. That's the actor's name. Ash Tyler's the character's name. He is like, there's like a mystery about who is like a mysterious Klingon in the disguise of a human. And the Klingon was credited as Javid Iqbal, Iqbal, for the whole show, which is a fake name. And I was like, wait, what? Why would they ever put a credit for a fake name? And it's so people who watch the credits don't spoil themselves on the show. Because then it would just say like, oh, X is actually the Klingon or whatever. and what's it called? Mr. Tajimura is credited as Fumio Yamaguchi. And I was like, wait a minute. Mr. Tajimura is not. And if you click on the Twin Peaks wiki or on IMDb or whatever for Fumio Yamaguchi, you get the page for Piper Laurie. Bingo! Isn't that fun?
Yeah, there you go. Sure. It's
I know
not fun that she's in Yellowface as Mr. Tajimura.
Wait, why isn't that fun? What are you talking about?
Oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah,
I guess it is fun.
Be fair. Be fair to the worst plot. Oh, God, I looked up when Nancy comes back.
When does Nancy come back?
She doesn't.
Really? Does Jean Reno come back?
I think so. Yeah. He definitely does because he's still.
What the hell? Cooper didn't kill her.
Yeah, I just think that they got rid of the parts of her that. Yeah, John definitely comes back. She does not.
Oh my God. What a stupid show. Not that Nancy was a cool character, but like you went through all this trouble of introducing her as Blackie's sister, killing Blackie O'Reilly. And then you're like, okay, well, let's stick with this guy.
Okay, bye. Cool. Yeah.
Silly.
Very silly.
When Cooper and Truman are on their way into One-Eyed Jack's, Cooper makes eye contact with an owl.
Yep. They're paying attention.
That's something.
They're paying attention. They're watching.
Yeah. And they're not what they seem.
No, not even a little bit. Not even a little bit. That's all I got. Spoilers.
Yeah. Me too.
Thanks, everybody. Keep on spoiling.